there's Texas A&M. And that was basically it. I mean, you weren't keyed up for Mississippi State. You weren't keyed up for Ole Miss. You got South Carolina. That's fine, whatever. Kentucky. But that's basically the way we've looked at LSU's schedule. And it goes the same for everybody. You kind of look at the big games on your schedule. Well, this adds at least one to your schedule. And it's not like a team that is maybe good this year, maybe good. It's one of the most iconic name brands in the sport. And again, I know that this is not some sort of breaking news or hot take or well-researched opinion. It was just my biggest takeaway when I start to look at Tennessee's schedule or Florida's schedule or Texas's schedule, and I start to look at it and go, man, this really does add some pop. And again, you know my stance on this. I was vehemently against that as of 3 years ago, as of certainly 10 years ago. But now with the expanded playoff, it's like, man, this is pretty cool. And the second thing that I took away was the SEC did a really good job with this. I know it's 1 year, and we've got work to do moving forward to figure some things out. But I don't look at anybody's schedule and think, man, that's a picnic. You can't. There are too many name brand programs. You can't miss Texas and Oklahoma and LSU and Auburn and Alabama and Georgia and Florida and Tennessee. Like, you can't miss that. You're going to catch 4 of those. You might catch 5 of those. There's no way to just catch the perennial bottom feeders. You're going to have marquee games routinely on your schedule because you've done away with divisions and you're not locked into anybody, and there's just too many name brand programs now for you to avoid it. And they did a really good job of putting it together. I will tell you this. I started to look at the individual schools' schedules, and every team that you would associate with that schedule is on there. I'll just go down the list here. Bama. They play LSU. They play Tennessee. They play Auburn. Arkansas. They play LSU. They play Texas, which is a traditional rivalry. I think people my age are unaware of the heated rivalry between Arkansas and Texas that was in the Southwest Conference because it didn't exist for our entire lives. But it's there. And they still, if you go to Hogville, it's free. It's the Tiger Droppings of Arkansas. They hate Texas. Arkansas plays Texas. They also play A&M. They also play Missouri. That's who I would associate with Arkansas. Auburn plays Alabama. They play Georgia. Florida, they play Georgia. They play Tennessee. They play LSU. Georgia, they've got Auburn. They've got Florida. They've got Tennessee. Kentucky, they've got Tennessee. Look at LSU. They got Florida. They got A&M. They got Bama. They got Ole Miss. I mean, every single team. You can go down the list. I'll just grab one. Tennessee. They play Georgia. They play Vanderbilt. They play Alabama. They play Florida. There are only 2 games. Really only one. I'll put a caveat. There's really only one game missing from the SEC schedule that has historical context, historical significance, and would be considered a rivalry. There's one game they did not get, and that's LSU-Auburn. The only 2 cross-division permanents that they didn't put on the schedule were Mississippi State, Kentucky, and Ole Miss, Vanderbilt, which no one cares about. They were forced in there because of what we did in 92. They even put A&M, South Carolina on the damn thing. The only game they did not put on the schedule was LSU and Auburn. And I'm fine with that. We'll play them next year. Like, I'm not married to it. I don't have to have it. There's honestly, and I've done this 2 days in a row now, so I don't have to do it again. There's not one game on the schedule for LSU that I have to have every year. For you, it may be Alabama. For Hester, it may be Florida. For Moscona, it may be Auburn. For someone in my parents' generation, or even a little older than that, maybe it's Ole Miss. But there's not one for me that I just have to have. If you're going to take Auburn off my schedule and tell Oklahoma to come to Death Valley, I'm not going to throw my hands up and say, well, what about the earthquake game? What about Flynn to Bird? How about the leverage call? The cigar game? What do we do? I don't feel that way. Oklahoma coming to Death Valley, that's fine. You make me skip Alabama, I promise I won't cry. You're going to send me Florida or Georgia anyway. So I thought they did a really good job in terms of balance and in terms of preserving rivalries. I thought it looked really, really good. Now, from LSU's perspective, I think your draw is pretty good. I mean, your toughest road game is probably Texas A&M. Theoretically, the Swamp would be more difficult, but I don't know what they are. And in this day and age in college football, it's just very difficult to forecast 2 years from now. Some guy might light it up at quarterback for Arizona next year and be Florida's quarterback in 2 years. Like, how do I know? I feel comfortable saying it's not going to look like Spurrier and Myers' heyday in 2 years when we go to the Swamp. Napier could do that, sure. They may win the national championship in 2 years. I'd bet against it. And you got Alabama coming to you. You've got Oklahoma coming to you, who, by the way, stunk last year. In my mind, maybe because I'm removed from football season a little bit, I feel like Oklahoma is the Lincoln Riley Heisman teams. It's not. It's a Brent Venables team that stunk last year. And you got them coming to you. You do get Vanderbilt, which I talked about yesterday. I would prefer at Vanderbilt. I love at Vanderbilt. Two greatest words in an SEC schedule reveal, at Vanderbilt. You're getting Vanderbilt coming to you, but you got Ole Miss as well. You got a road game at Arkansas. Are you terrified of that? I just mentioned Florida. South Carolina will be post Spencer Rattler. Who knows? They're generally not very good. Maybe Shane Beamer is the next Spurrier. The odds are he's probably like everybody else they've ever had outside of Spurrier and not very good. And then you got A&M. The question is, and this is one that we don't have an answer to, but I thought of it when I saw the schedule. I think A&M and Texas will play that last weekend, right? That was LSU's season ender is A&M. You figure Texas would take that spot. So is Oklahoma now going to be the last game of the year? They going to put Ole Miss as the last game of the year? I think Arkansas is probably going to play Missouri continually. That's on their schedule. Is that the final game of the regular season going to be, instead of A&M coming out of that tunnel or Arkansas coming out of that tunnel, the way it's been for a long time? Is that going to be Oklahoma at Thanksgiving weekend? Because I don't know when they're going to play Bedlam, if they're going to play Bedlam. And Texas is in the Cotton Bowl early. So maybe that's the game. I'm not insinuating that that's a permanent thing, but I think it's reasonable to think that may be the case. And heck, maybe they put, South Carolina at the end. Who knows? They're supposed to play Clemson, but it feels like Oklahoma could be a fit there. A lot of people saying Alabama caught a bit of a short straw here. They do have 3 theoretically difficult road games. They got to go to LSU. They've got to go to Oklahoma. They've got to go to Tennessee. And they draw Georgia coming to them. But they did get Vanderbilt and Missouri as well. So again, every time I feel like I was looking at a team's schedule and I saw something that looked very favorable or looked very difficult, the opposite can be talked into over 8 games. And people are saying that Arkansas caught a really good break because their road games are Auburn, who's in a coaching change, Mississippi State, Missouri, and A&M. And their home games, and the A&M game is neutral, and that's an away game. And then LSU, Ole Miss, Tennessee, and Texas coming to them. But still, you got LSU, Tennessee, and Texas coming to you. That's not a picnic for Arkansas. So trust me, I'm fully prepared to come on here when something pops up scheduling-wise and go, well, this is a screw job. This is a disaster. I can muster that up. I don't see it here. I see a lot of excellent opportunities to watch football. I mean, you can point to any team on the list and grab of the marquee teams. I'm not going to pull Mississippi State's schedule and have a field day with it. I don't care. They're going 7-5, whatever. But Oklahoma's coming into the league. They're making trips to Auburn, LSU, and the Grove, coming to Oklahoma, Alabama, Tennessee. That's salty. You pull A&M's schedule. They're going to Auburn. They're going to Florida. Coming to them, LSU and Texas. So I think it was a good reveal. I think it was equitable. I think it's interesting. I think that this league got better no matter what you feel about X rivalry or Y rivalry. It's more interesting. And I'm okay with that now that losses aren't grossly penalized. Let's go play some football. You lose 2 games. I mean, LSU's schedule next year is going to feature UCLA, USC, Oklahoma, Alabama, Texas A&M, Florida. I mean, that's – if y'all have been talking about wanting your season tickets money's worth, how does Oklahoma, Alabama, and UCLA sound? That sounds like money's worth. I don't know what you specifically paid for yours, but it sounds pretty good. And I think if you lose 2 games with that schedule, you're in just fine shape to make the playoffs. We'll see what they do moving forward. They got work to do with ironing out a permanent schedule that they want to have 9 games, but this is a good start, and I thought an interesting exercise from last night. So SEC schedules are in place. Last time to tell you about our Rad Dad contest. 104.5 ESPN and Acura Baton Rouge want to know how rad is your dad. So upload a picture of your dad doing dad things to 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge now through June 15th for a chance to win him a charter fishing trip for 4, courtesy of LouisianaCharterFishing.com. We'll choose a winner at random on the 16th. That's tomorrow. Happy Father's Day from Acura Baton Rouge, LouisianaCharterFishing.com, and 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. Ryan Shemp going to be with us here coming up. It's the Hunt Palmer Show.
This is Hunt Palmer. In times of need, get a full list of phone numbers, websites, and other important emergency information on the Demco Stormwatch page at 1045ESPN.com.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected. Supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
When is a taco more than just a taco? When it's Government Taco. Voted best tacos 3 years in a row by 225 Magazine, Government Taco puts the most delicious spin on tacos the capital area has ever seen. With creative combinations like the Magna Carrot, the Filibuster, or the Steak of the Union. Plus perfect tortilla chips paired with the best salsa and queso you've ever had. And happy hour every day from 3 to 6 p.m. and all day on Thursday. Government Taco, 5621 Government Street.
Electricity is all around us, and our families depend on it. Every day is sparked by the power of a cold drink or a warm meal, a movie night, and a comforting light at the end of a dark hallway. From sunrise to sunset, playtime to bedtime, our team is ready to take care of your electrical needs. Even in the case of an after-hours emergency, the light in your life shines brighter with Mr. Electric.
Turn my music high, 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 yeah.
You don't know what you're doing.
Sure I do. I'm from the streets where the hood can swallow on me. Bullets will follow on me. There's so much that you could run the slalom. The cops comb this top to bottom. They say that we are prone to violence, but it's home sweet home. With personalities clashing, chrome meets chrome. Prices up and down like it's Wall Street.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals, but many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
Hey there, little buddy. What's the matter?
What's the matter? My windows, siding, and my door. That's what's the matter.
Relief Windows can fix all of that. I got you. Pop, pop. What's up?
Oh my gosh, look!
Curb appeal. That's a good-looking neighborhood. LeafWindows.com.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
Hey, it's Matt Musso. Join me Monday through Friday for your daily update on LSU baseball with Musso at the Box, presented by New Orleans Flooring. Wherever you get
Charles Hannegriff, our Omaha home for the College World Series is the Ameristar Casino and Hotel in Council Bluffs, Iowa, just minutes away from downtown Omaha. Enjoy the only casino buffet in the area and a full sports book. Eat, watch, and bet at the Ameristar Casino and Hotel.
This is Hunt Palmer on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
We're under 24 hours until first pitch from Omaha, Nebraska. The College World Series gets underway Friday afternoon. It'll be TCU and Oral Roberts, followed by Florida and Virginia. You know, LSU and Tennessee. The nightcap on Saturday, 6 p.m. is the scheduled first pitch. A guy who knows a thing or two about Omaha, Nebraska, because he went up there and played there twice and won a national championship the second time around, is Ryan Schimpf. Joins us now on the Jim's Firearms Hotline. Mr. Schimpf, how are you?
I'm good, Hunt. How we doing?
We're doing very well. LSU hasn't been in the College World Series for a few years, since 2017, but every year this time when the song comes on and ESPN starts broadcasting, it's got to bring back some pretty good memories for you.
Absolutely. It's the best time of the year for me. You know, it's great to see LSU back in, and I mean, man, the team's electric. So I'm super excited, ready for the first game tomorrow.
Yeah, I mean, I'm fired up for it as well. It'll be on right when we come on the air. I want to talk about some of y'all's memories of just being up there. What is it like for a player? You've got practice, you've got a press conference here or there, and then you've got games, but there's a lot of downtime. What is a long run in Omaha like for a player in terms of how you spend your days?
I mean, first off, applaud the parents for taking 2 weeks out of their work to stay up there if you stay long enough. I mean, it's a long trip, but, I mean, it's the time of a lifetime. You know, we had a lot of fun at LSU because, I mean, a lot of us had a bunch of family up there, and there's always something to do. I mean, when we were there, Coach Mary always kept us busy with you know, whether it was some kind of breakfast, meeting, lunch, dinner. But, you know, just going to the zoo, whatever you can do to stay loose. So, I mean, you're playing, you're focused, but it's a big party too. LSU knows how to have a good time.
I think this team is in a similar situation to your team in 2008. They're playing pretty well. They've got a coach who has been there, but they have not. What did y'all learn in 2008, your first time going up to Omaha with a team that was playing really well but had never seen it before?
Yeah, I would agree with that. Yeah, I mean, 2008 was kind of a magical year. It definitely set us up for 2009. I think at the beginning of the year, we definitely did not expect to be there. We weren't very good. And then we got on that run, and it was just magic for the rest of the year. You know, this team's a little bit different just because they were preseason number one. So I think that they expected to be there all along. And, I mean, their confidence is through the roof. Jay Johnson's got a lot of confidence. I mean, I know those guys will be ready. So a lot of emotions, at least our first year there. You know, a lot of history there that you're soaking in too. So, I mean, it's like you're at Disney World for a college baseball player. So I think the boys will be ready.
I know a ton of people that are going up there, so I'd imagine LSU will have as big a contingent as anyone. What kind of difference does that make? That was certainly the case when y'all went.
Wait, say that one more time?
Having as many fans there as any team has got to be at least an advantage for LSU. It certainly was when y'all were there.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I mean, and I think that the cool thing about LSU is you got a lot of the regulars there too. I mean, at LSU at home, you get close with a lot of the regular fans there, and then you see them in Omaha, and there's definitely a comfort level there. I mean, I think LSU always has the upper hand just because there's so many people, so many season ticket holders for LSU that go regardless of who's there. So it's definitely comforting.
The box play is really offensive, and LSU has played really good offense the last couple of weeks. You get up there to Omaha in this park. Well, I think it's going to play a little more offensive than it has over the last decade because of the balls and the talent that's up there. It's still going to be a little bit different. Y'all didn't play in that stadium anyway, but how do you think LSU adjusts its offense to deal with that ballpark?
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot. I think very highly of the hitters on this team. I mean, I would love to believe that they're not going to have an issue. I mean, they've been hitting balls out of every park that you can imagine. So, yeah, I mean, this one's a little bit bigger than the old one. The ball flew pretty good at the old one. So, I mean, it'll be fun to see. I don't think that they'll have a problem, but we'll see and we'll find out.
Chatting with Ryan Shrimp, former Tiger, national champion and major leaguer, joining us here on the Hunt Palmer Show. What do you think about Cruz and White hitting 1 and 2 in this lineup?
It's interesting, man. Obviously, it's worked, right? So, I mean, you know, what's the thought right there? Get them as many at bats as possible. I mean, and that lineup's so good to where, I mean, all 1 through 9 is produced. So, I mean, it's fun to see. The more chances that I get to see Cruz and White hit, I mean, that's more fun for me. So, yeah, I mean, it's an interesting shakeup for sure.
So, Paul Skeens has faced 2 different teams twice this year. He faced Arkansas for a second time in the SEC tournament, and they saw him pretty well and did a good job to get his pitch count up, and it was in Hoover, so they just took him out because they didn't want to run the pitch count up. Then he saw Kentucky for the second time and dominated him once again. This will be Tennessee's second look at a guy throwing 100 miles an hour. You face guys that throw 100 miles an hour. Does it benefit the offense to have seen a pitcher like this previously?
I mean, I think absolutely. The second time you see somebody, the better you can prepare and know what to expect. But, I mean, and this goes both ways. I mean, you don't care who's on the mound or as a pitcher. I mean, you don't care who you're facing. I mean, you believe in your stuff no matter what. But yeah, sure. I mean, I would definitely feel a little bit more comfortable, even though he's throwing 100, 101 the second time around. But he's still a horse out there, so you got to believe in him.
Who was the hardest thrower you ever faced? That I mean, you know when you dug in, you're like, whoa, this guy's a little different.
Yeah, I mean, there's a few, but definitely Aroldis Chapman was the scary one. So that was tough because he threw 105 or whatever the heck it was, but he's a lefty too. So I was saying my prayers, and I went up there, and to be honest with you, I was taken the whole time. I had zero intention of swinging, and it worked out, and I got a walk out of it.
In 2016, the Cubs were the best team in baseball, and they traded for Chapman at the deadline, and they brought him in the first time, and he threw a 94-mile-an-hour slider, and I went, oh, this is going to be pretty fun to have. It was fun. They won the World Series that year. You mentioned being left-handed. Tennessee is very left-handed. They've got like 6 guys in their lineup that they really lean on that are left-handed. Skeens is going to go as long as he can go, but Ackenhausen, Cooper, Herring, I think are going to factor into a tight game on Saturday should we see one. When you watch those guys pitch for LSU, what makes them difficult against a left-handed hitter?
Yeah, I mean, it's really just about executing pitches. I mean, you could have all the stuff in the world, but if you can't locate, I mean, the good hitters will catch on at some point if they have a good plan. So if you can execute your pitches, even though you throw hard, if you attack in the zone and go down with your game plan, I mean, that's all you could ask for. So, the best of the best are playing right now. So everybody's going to be sharp right now.
How do you think it goes for LSU up in Omaha?
Man, I said this the other day. I'm an LSU fan. I'm always optimistic. I think they could win. I think they should win. So it's going to be fun. I haven't had a chance to watch really a lot of the teams in it, but I mean, I think the world of these hitters. I mean, it's impressive and it's fun to see. I mean, even guys that aren't going to be in the starting lineup. So I think, and not to discredit the pitchers, but I mean, if the hitters bang like they did in the Supers, I mean, we should be pretty happy with this team at the end of this.
I think there's a good chance of that. Hopefully they get off to a really good start on Saturday. Ryan, really appreciate your time. Enjoy the baseball, man.
Thank you, Hunt. See you later.
Ryan Shemp, former Tiger He was a stalwart on that 2009 team. I think he may get overlooked a little bit by LeMahieu and Dean and Renato and Coleman, and Mitchell was the MVP and Matuk. But Schimpf was right in the middle of that thing, hitting homers in Omaha, and that team was on a heck of a run. Got all the way to the final and won it in Game 3 back in 2009. I'm curious how LSU responds. The only team that shows up in Omaha with significant Omaha experience is Stanford. Wake doesn't have any. Florida doesn't have any. LSU has just a couple of guys. Of course, Oral Roberts doesn't have any. So Tennessee was there 2 years ago, but this whole team is turned over since then. That lineup that was so good 2 years ago in 21 and was dominant last year, they basically lost all of them. So you don't have a lot of Omaha experience on that team. Vitello's been, but not the rest of the team. TCU has not been. So it's Stanford's really it. So I know a lot of people stick to that rule that Skip said you've got to go up there and lose before you can go up there and win. And I'm not sure that applies really anymore because of the transfer portal and how quickly teams turn over. Back then you were building programs and guys were with you for 3, 4, 5 years. That's just not the case anymore. You get guys for 2 or 3 in a lot of cases, and that's the team you're bringing up there. They're probably not going to have a ton of experience unless you're Stanford and you've been 2 years in a row. So I think they learned a little bit in 2008, and they were ready to roll in 2009. LSU didn't have that luxury. You got to get up there and roll because the second you lose a second game, assuming you haven't gotten to the championship series, but second you go home, Dylan Cruz and Paul Skeens are collecting checks and you're restarting things. And speaking of restarting things, LSU did jump in the transfer portal a little bit earlier today. We'll talk about that at the end of hour number 1. When we come back, we have not looked at bracket number 1 very much. LSU's in bracket 2. We've certainly gone through some of those teams, and we'll do some of that with Joe Healy coming up a little bit later. But I do want to talk about the other teams in the College World Series. We'll do that next.
This is on Palmer. Our listeners fire off their opinions on the jimsfirearms.net hotline at 499-1045. Keep listening for your next chance to shoot us your thoughts with the jimsfirearms.net hotline on 1045 ESPN Baton Rouge.
The world's leaders in obesity research, obesity medicine, and obesity science are right here.
We're doing something that no one's ever done, or trying to answer a question that no one's ever asked before.
Pennington is a real jewel when it comes to research.
We are finding the solutions to the world's worst chronic disease, which is obesity. Louisiana needs Pennington Biomedical.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary, for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected, supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
When is a taco more than just a taco? When it's Government Taco. Voted best tacos 3 years in a row by 225 Magazine, Government Taco puts the most delicious spin on tacos the capital area has ever seen. With creative combinations like the Magna Carrot, the Filibuster, or the Steak of the Union. Plus perfect tortilla chips paired with the best salsa and queso you've ever had. And happy hour every day from 3 to 6 p.m. and all day on Thursday. Government Taco, 5621 Government Street.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals. But many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
Hey there, little buddy. What's the matter?
What's the matter? My windows, siding, and my door. That's what's the matter.
Relief Windows can fix all that. I got you. Pop, pop. What's up?
Oh my gosh, look!
Curb appeal. That's a good-looking neighborhood. ReliefWindows.com.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets, from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology, from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
The best kept secret in town is out. Discover Tallulah at the Renaissance Hotel on Bluebonnet.
All right, let's say ah.
Where'd my spotlight go?
Super weird, but we can take care of it.
Get in and get better at Patient Plus.
Hey, it's Matt Musso. Join me Monday through Friday for your daily update on LSU baseball with Musso at the Box, presented by New Orleans Flooring.
Matt Moscona inviting you to join us for Thursday's AFR, presented by the Aesthetic Medicine and Anti-Aging Clinics of Louisiana. Final preps from Omaha for the Tigers, and LSU defensive lineman Mason Smith joins us. 3 to 6, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
You're listening to Hunt Palmer on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Ricky Fowler's locked in right now. Guy's got 3 feet for his 4th birdie in a row at LACC. Been fighting it for a couple of years now, but he seems to have regained some form, and he is locked in at the moment. U.S. Open going on out in California. College World Series cranking up in Omaha tomorrow, and Bracket 1 will be on display. We haven't talked much about Bracket 1. Did a little bit with Chris Burke yesterday, but I wanted to kind of go through basically a big thumbnail on the other teams inside the bracket. I think it's certainly worth monitoring if you're an LSU fan. I think everybody's just kind of locked in on the whole thing because LSU is still around. I don't know that I would do this if LSU got bounced in the regional round, but they're in it. So let's chat briefly about Bracket 1. Florida, I believe, is the favorite in Bracket 1. The Gators 50-15 on the year. You know, they went 20-10 and shared the SEC title with Arkansas. They won 8 of 10 SEC weekends, did the Gators. In 7 NCAA tournament games, Florida pitching has allowed 12 total runs. That is real good. They lost the marble game in the regional to Texas Tech, came back and had their 4th and 5th starter chop it up. So, again, 7 tournament games, they've allowed 12 total runs. National Collegiate Baseball Writers Association named 4 Florida Gators All-Americans today. Of course, you know, Jack Caglione hit 336, 31 home runs, 84 driven in. Pretty good. And he also pitches a little bit. You may have heard that. Wyatt Langford's going to be a top 5 pick. He hit 373 with 18 home runs. And I should mention, with those 18 home runs, he missed 2 weeks after fouling a ball off a place you really don't want to foul a ball off of. You're not wearing protective, covering. And he had to miss 2 weeks because of that. Still hit 18 home runs with that 373 batting average. Brandon Neely has been a phenomenal closer for them. 64 strikeouts in 46 2/3 innings. He's got 13 saves on the year for the Gators. And a guy that doesn't get the pub of Langford, of Caglione, of really Hurston Waldrop or Brandon Sproat is Josh Rivera, their shortstop, who's an All-American as well. He hit 362 this year, 17 home runs, driven in 68. Could have left for the draft last year, decided to come back and bet on himself, and it has turned up aces. He's going to be a top 50 pick, I think, in the Major League Baseball draft. Sproat's been pretty average at the top of the rotation. He's going to pitch tomorrow for Florida against Virginia. Hurston Waldrop's been dialed in the last 2 weeks. Waldrop in 2 NCAA tournament games has thrown a total of 15 innings, 1 8-inning outing, 1 7-inning outing. He has allowed 8 hits and 1 run in those 15 innings, 25 strikeouts, and 4 walks. So on Sunday, Florida will either be playing to save its season or to get into the winner's bracket, and they will have Hurston Waldrop ready to go in that game. I think advantage Gators there. We'll talk about the other teams. I think Florida's going to win that bracket. I think they're that good. TCU has been in fuego. They've won 11 games in a row. I will give them a lot of credit for going to Fayetteville, Arkansas in the regional round, playing Arkansas twice and outscoring them 32-9. That's legit. I know it's 2 days. It doesn't mean they're going to go nuts in Omaha, but anyone that can go there and do that, that's impressive. And then after scoring 32 runs in 2 games against Arkansas, they came back and held Indiana State to 5 total runs in a 2-game super regional. That I'm not going to give you as much credit for. It's good. Trust me, it's good. Giving up 5 runs in 2 games is good, but the Arkansas thing is more impressive to me. Their ace is Cole Keckler, and he's a freshman. He's won 10 games. He's come on very strong late in the year. 7 innings of shutout baseball with 9 strikeouts against Indiana State in the Super. They're going to throw him, I believe, in tomorrow's game against Oral Roberts. Their number 2 is Sam Stoutenberg. He's a pretty average guy. He's a Cal transfer. The numbers are pretty average. So, again, if that's the team that Florida were to draw and you were looking at a matchup between Waldrop and Stoutenberg, like, that's kind of a slam dunk for me. But Waldrop, his ERA was 5 in the regular season. So I trust him. I think his stuff's unbelievable. I think he's going to be a top 40 pick in the draft. But it's been hit or miss. It was a huge hit the last 2 weeks. We'll see what it is in Omaha. As far as TCU goes offensively, only 88 home runs for this team, which is not a lot in today's college baseball. They are 6th in the country in stolen bases. They will run. And they are 20th in the country in doubles, which is very good, and that's an important stat when you get to Omaha, and line drives in the gaps and down the lines are a little bit more reliable than the big fly. Big fly's there. We've covered it, but doubles are always there, and TCU has done a good job of that. So a little bit more of a smaller ball team. It's not, again, not Cal State Fullerton 2013 where we're bunting every time we get somebody on, but they do steal and they do hit some doubles. So that's Florida and TCU. Oral Roberts is Cinderella. You know that by now. They are, however, 51-12. In the Summit League this year, they went 23-1. 23-1 in the Summit League. They swept through the Stillwater Regional, and then they went up to Eugene and scored 27 runs in 3 games. I love this stat about Oral Roberts because this should travel to Omaha with them. They led the nation in fielding percentage. 984. Now, of course, you play better teams. They hit the ball harder. Theoretically, you could have some trouble fielding it as compared to the Summit League. But still, baseball's baseball, and to lead the nation in fielding percentage is very, very impressive. What they're going to try to do, Oral Roberts, is get a lead through 6 innings. If they can do that in any given game, that's when Cade Denton will come in, and he's the first-team All-American as a closer. He's been phenomenal all year long for them. So that's the guy that they want to get the ball to. He's not a starter. You're not going to see him start in the game tomorrow, but if they can get a lead and he will stretch out, they will go to Cade Denton. Jonah Cox is their stalwart offensively. He's on a 47-game hitting streak. That's pretty good. Leads Division I in hits. That's pretty good. Then they've got Matt Hogan, who was a 3rd-team All-American with 18 home runs. So some significant star power statistically for Oral Roberts. But the problem they have is I think their starting pitching is very average. And that just makes things tough. They were good in the Summit League. Do I feel great about them getting TCU out? I don't. So I like TCU in that game tomorrow against this Oral Roberts team. But if Oral Roberts can get a lead, you're going to see Cade Denton. And, hey, shout out to Oral Roberts for a gut-wrenching Game 1 loss in the Super where they blow an 8-0 lead, come back and win the next 2. That's big stuff on the road. We'll see how big they are when they get to Charles Schwab Park. And then Virginia is a team that I've seen a lot of experts pick. The D1 guys like them a lot. I've seen some ESPN guys tab them as a real threat to win the whole thing. Virginia went 50-13 this year. They were 19-11 in ACC play. In their regional, they only allowed 5 runs. That's pretty salty to allow 5 runs in an entire regional. And after a 5-4 loss in Game 1 of the Super to Duke, they outscored the Blue Devils 26-6 in games 2 and 3. So kind of an offensive outburst there. Kyle Teal is their dude. He's a first-team All-American at catcher, .417 batting average, 13 homers. He was the ACC Player of the Year this year for Virginia as a catcher. He's really good. The question I have with Virginia is how their pitching will hold up. It was good in the ACC, and their numbers are pretty good. It's Connolly Early, it's Nick Parker, it's Josh O'Connor, it's Brian Edgington. Those 4 guys, now this is impressive. Those 4 guys for Virginia have started 58 of their 63 games. They hadn't been mixing and matching and trying to figure out who can start a game for them. No. They've got the 4. Connolly Early, Nick Parker, Josh O'Connor, and Brian Edgington. They've started almost every game. But it's not a staff loaded with stuff. You're not going to see 96-mile-an-hour heaters from these guys. You're not going to see wipeout sliders or unhittable changeups. Every team in the field, save Oral Roberts, probably has a guy with better stuff than this Virginia staff. But they've been okay. They've gotten outs, and they've won a lot of games. 50-13 speaks for itself. But I'm curious how that holds up against Florida. You got a staff that's not going to miss a lot of bats. Florida's got a lot of bats that can hit it a long way. And so if Virginia's not going to strike guys out and you're going to let guys like Rivera and Caglione and Wyatt Langford and those guys wail on pitches, eventually I feel like they're going to start pumping some balls in the gap and over the wall. So we'll see. It's been good all year, and a lot of teams really like him, and Kyle Teal's a star. But I question Virginia's staff stuff. I question TCU for not having a great year and for having a suspect number 2 starter. I don't think Oral Roberts' talent is up to snuff, and I think Florida is just a head link above all these guys, all these teams. I can easily talk myself into Wake Forest. I can easily talk myself into Tennessee. I can easily talk my way into LSU. I can talk my way into Stanford. It's a little harder with Stanford, but I can talk my way into it. I can't talk myself into Oral Roberts winning the bracket. I struggle with TCU after one freshman starter, and I think Florida's just better than Virginia. So to me, as I look at this bracket, and anything can happen in Omaha, we know that. I think Florida's playing great, and I think they proved in the regional when they had already pitched Caglione, they had already pitched Sproat, and he lost, and they pitched Waldrop, and then they came back in 2 more games and used their 4th and 5th starter in a regional and pitched the way they did. They could drop a game and still get through this thing, feasting on the back half of some of these pitching staffs. I just don't feel that way about the other teams. So give me Florida in bracket 1. I like them to win tomorrow. I like TCU to win tomorrow, and I think Florida handles TCU in that winter game on Sunday. So that's a look at bracket 1. Still a lot to get to here on this Thursday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show. In hour 2, we're going to talk a little bit of Saints at the top. Joe Healy's going to join us from Charles Schwab Park at 2:15. I honestly don't know if it's Charles Schwab Field or Park. I'm going to have to look that up in the commercial break. It was TD Ameritrade Park. It was Rosenblatt Stadium. I don't know what the Chuck Box actual name is, and I just need to get that. So let's go back and look that up in the break. But we're going to visit with Joe Healy from there one way or another at 2:15. And LSU got a huge football commitment today. We'll talk about that at 2:30. When we come back, LSU baseball. Thought they were just going to Omaha. They're in the transfer portal as well. I'll tell you about the name that they landed today and what that means for next year's baseball team. That's next.
This is on Palmer. In times of need, get a full list of phone numbers, websites, and other important emergency information on the Demco Stormwatch page at 1045ESPN.com.
This summer, retirement is a state of mind. Whether it's a mid-morning activity or an early bird special, grab a Coors Light and chill like you're retired. Are you with me?
Follow us on Twitter at 1045ESPN to cast your vote in the Citizens Bank and Trust Poll of the Day. Vote daily inside Off the Bench, live at lunch, on Palmer. And after further review, Citizens Bank and Trust brings you the Poll of the Day via Twitter at 1045ESPN.
When is a taco more than just a taco? When it's Government Taco. Voted best tacos 3 years in a row by 225 Magazine, Government Taco puts the most delicious spin on tacos the capital area has ever seen. With creative combinations like the Magna Carrot, the Filibuster, or the Steak of the Union. Plus perfect tortilla chips paired with the best salsa and queso you've ever had. And happy hour every day from 3 to 6 p.m. and all day on Thursday. Government Taco, 5621 Government Street.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary, for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected, supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals, but many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
Hey there, little buddy. What's the matter?
What's the matter? My windows, siding, and my door. That's what's the matter.
Relief Windows can fix all that. I got you. Pop, pop. What's up?
Oh my gosh, look!
Curb appeal. That's a good-looking neighborhood. ReliefWindows.com.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
The best kept secret in town is out. Discover Tallulah at the Renaissance Hotel on Bluebonnet.
Gulf Coast Bank and Trust is giving our customers the power to bank anywhere, anytime during this challenging event. And
Up on Friday's OTP, the penultimate day before Omaha gets underway. It's time, Tennessee. Come out to play. Off the bench, 7 to 10 a.m., 104.5 ESPN.
This is Hunt Palmer on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Ricky Fowler, your leader out in the U.S. Open. He is 6 under par and nearly jarred a bunker shot there, left it about 2 inches outside the lip. Would have been his 4th birdie in a row. But taps in for par, 6 under. He is in the lead out at Los Angeles Country Club. LSU into the transfer portal today. I told y'all that just because LSU was going to Omaha and was scouting opponents and practicing and getting ready to play for a national championship, they weren't going to just abandon the transfer portal. And they got a commitment today from a Southeastern Conference player. Michael Braswell, infielder from South Carolina, has decided he's going to continue his career at LSU. Now, statistically speaking, Braswell was underwhelming this year as a sophomore. In his sophomore season as basically a full-time starter, 51 games played for South Carolina. He only hit .255. He had 1 home run. His on-base percentage was .372. He had 1 stolen base. He bounced around in the infield, played a lot of second base. Then Braylon Wimmer got hurt, so he moved over to shortstop and played there for a few weeks. He was a very, very highly thought of high school player, top 75 in the country high school player when he committed to South Carolina and signed there. And as a freshman, had a solid year. He hit .284, got on base .365. had a couple of home runs and played 54 games for him as a true freshman. This is when you think transfer portal with LSU baseball, you think Jacob Berry, you think Paul Skeens, you think Tommy White. Those are the names that come to mind. This is not that. If you look up on May 3rd of next year and Michael Braswell is your starting shortstop hitting second, I think LSU's got some problems. If he's a utility infielder that plays some second base for you, maybe hits eighth, I think he can be a depth piece to this team. This is very much in line with a Ben DePolt style pickup. He may be a starter at shortstop. He may be a starter at second. He may be a utility infielder who can give you some innings at third or pinch run late in the game. He's not going to be a star. There's some upside there for sure. There's a reason they took him, but it has not quite been realized just yet. And I think expecting some sort of massive jump is not there. But LSU needs infielders. Jordan Thompson's going to move on after this year. Gavin Dugas is going to move on after this year. And quite frankly, Gavin Guidry has kind of been, by the fan base and by some that I've listened to, handed the keys to shortstop next year. He's got hit. He didn't hit at all in the fall or the spring when he got some opportunities early. Now, he's been a huge piece of this team, no question about it. And I think that this summer they should send him off to get some at-bats and see what they can do in utilizing him because he's got a lot of talent. He was the Gatorade Player of the Year in the state, and he's a smooth fielding shortstop who has some offensive ability. But he did not show that at all in fall practice or early this year. So penciling him in right now as a shortstop is ambitious. And I think they've got a couple of guys in this high school class that can play on the infield and maybe plug and plays. But I think they'd like to go still back to the transfer portal and add more depth in the infield. And Braswell's a nice start. I think he's a depth piece. I do not think he is a shoe-in starter or some guy that was grossly misused at South Carolina that's going to take some huge step. When you've played 2 years, especially in that ballpark, with the way that the ball's being hit right now, and you hit 3 home runs total as basically a full-time starter, I don't see a ton of power just showing up at some point. And while he did have a better batting average and on-base percentage as a freshman than a sophomore, expecting him to be some sort of force offensively is too much for me to believe. So I'm perfectly acceptable with the ad. You've got to have guys in the infield. You can't fake infield play. You can fake first base play sometimes. You can fake corner outfield play. You can't fake middle infield play, even though LSU's kind of tempting fate with Gavin Dugas and a bad shoulder at this point. But Braswell, a nice ad, not one that's going to grab headlines like Tommy Tanks or Paul Skeens or Jacob Berry, but a nice ad to the program. They will continue to dig more and more into the transfer portal to replace a lot of guys they're missing moving forward, but we don't have to worry about that right now. I just got to worry about Saturday and getting to win a ball game. Joe Healy's going to talk some baseball with us coming up in hour number 2 at 2:15. LSU football got a big commitment from a defensive back. We'll talk about that at 2:30 when we come back after some Sports Center here. Got some Saints news from mini camp. Revolves around Alvin Kamara. That's next on the Hunt Palmer Show.
There it is, the extra mile. On the border of expected and extraordinary for those willing to go further. Like vans customized for work or play. With safety and tech to keep you connected. Supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team. And backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
The importance of doing this fortified program and offering it to people down here is number one, the only real chance you're going to get to do this is when you put on a new roof or build new. And through companies like HUDCO, who's kind of leading the way in this thing, it's going to offer the customers a huge advantage in the insurance market and the price of their insurance.
You know, we're not looking to make a fortune off fortifying. We're trying to give you a better product than our competitor at the moment. I'm trying to do something that he can. I'm trying to give you something better. So a lot of these insurance shops, you're getting a re-roof, you're only paying your deductible. Let's sit down and talk about the fortified and let's see what it does to your insurance premium. You're getting a steal.
Yeah.
You're getting a brand new roof and a fortified certificate for your deductible, essentially. I think we're rocking and rolling.
When When is a taco more than just a taco? When it's Government Taco. Voted best tacos 3 years in a row by 225 Magazine, Government Taco puts the most delicious spin on tacos the capital area has ever seen. With creative combinations like the Magna Carrot, the Filibuster, or the Steak of the Union. Plus perfect tortilla chips paired with the best salsa and queso you've ever had. And happy hour every day from 3 to 6 p.m. and all day on Thursday. Government Taco, 5621 Government Street.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals. But many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
Hey there, little buddy. What's the matter?
What's the matter? My windows, siding, and my door. That's what's the matter.
Relief Windows can fix all that. I got you. Pop, pop. What's up?
Oh my gosh, look!
Curb appeal. That's a good-looking neighborhood. ReliefWindows.com.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
The best kept secret in town is out. Discover Tallulah at the Renaissance Hotel on Bluebonnet.
This is SportsCenter.
I'm Doug Brown. The 123rd U.S. Open underway today at the Los Angeles Country Club. Half of the field yet to tee off. Ricky Fowler, the leader right now at 6 under with 5 holes to play. Xander Schauffele, 1 shot back at 5 under. Ryan Fox at 3 under. The third major of the year getting started as the Wall Street Journal reports the U.S. Department of Justice has opened a review of the planned golf merger involving the PGA Tour, the DP World Tour, and the Saudi Public Investment Fund. ESPN's Mark Schlabach says no one knows yet if LIV Golf will exist after this year.
Everybody around the PGA Tour thinks LIV's going away, so we'll just have to see. I don't think anybody really knows the truth, and people are just repeating what they've heard, but certainly a lot to shake out over the next several months.
Mark Schlabach on Freddie and Fitzsimmons. The Nuggets got their championship parade today in downtown Denver. The Nuggets won their first NBA title on Monday night, beating the Heat in 5 games.
It's Wrangler season out there. Open roads, endless horizons. Shop Wrangler.com for new denim styles, made for your next adventure. Wrangler, for the ride of life.
Now, Hunt Palmer on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. Holding down the middle of the day. Live from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studios. This is Hunt Palmer.
Hour number 2 on a Thursday, Hunt Palmer Show, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. Appreciate you hanging out with us for one more hour. Matt Moscona going to drive you home on After Further Review from 3 to 6 this afternoon. Mason Smith going to check in with Matt on his show today. Speaking of football, let's talk a little bit about New Orleans Saints as they continue mini camp over in Metairie. And one of the things that I have noticed as I've read from some writers that have been there, as I've listened to some sound from the players and coaches, as I've seen some video, one of the things that has stood out, and admittedly not a massively news-packed minicamp, has been Alvin Kamara's activity as a pass catcher. Whether that be out of the backfield, whether that be from the slot, whether that be down the field, or whether that be around the line of scrimmage. And for those of us that have watched the Saints over the years, since Alvin joined them in 2017, you know that pass catching is very much a big part of his game. His first 3 seasons as a New Orleans Saint, he caught exactly 81 passes. Then he upped that to 83 in Drew Brees' final year of 2020. But since Drew Brees moved on, in 13 games in 2021, only 47 catches. And last year in 15 games, only 57 catches. He was north of 5.5 catches a game early in his career, and last year was under 4. The last 2 years has been under 4. And so most of the things you talk about 2-3 years after a quarterback and 2 years after a coach moves on have nothing to do with what you saw 3, 4, 5 years ago when those two were there. But Pete Carmichael is still there. So you would figure that a lot of the concepts would still be the same. However, the execution of it has not been there. The Saints quarterback play the last 2 years hasn't been good. It's been musical chairs, whether it's been Jameis, whether it's been Andy Dalton. You throw Taysom Hill in there a little bit. Every once in a while, you get an Ian Book start. And you realize that you're not going to be as efficient as you were with Drew Brees back there. But now you've got a quarterback that should be able to handle this and get Alvin Kamara more involved catching the football. I would imagine that Alvin Kamara's catches per game would go back up towards 5, 5.5, 6 catches a game. That's the way that I would view it. However, how many games is he going to play? That's what we don't know. We know when he's out there, he's going to be involved in the pass game. And we know that Derek Carr, while not Drew Brees, is very capable of getting him the football. We don't know how often he's going to be out there. So the question is, when he's not, because we assume there's going to be missed time at some point, at least I do, are there other guys that can incorporate that into their game? I'm not asking you to be as good as Alvin Kamara, because he's one of the best in the league in the screen game. But Pierre Thomas wasn't as good as Alvin Kamara in terms of his physical gifts, and he was every bit as good as Kamara in the screen game. So can Kendre Miller give you that? You used him, used a draft pick on him. And if you look back at TCU, he was not really involved in the passing game for TCU. As a sophomore, his first time to really get a lot of game action, he had 12 catches in 10 games. As a junior in 14 games, he had 16 catches. TCU did not use him in the passing game. Now, if you listen to Dennis Allen talk, he says that Kendre Miller can do a lot of the same things that Alvin Kamara could do. Now, eventually, you kind of assume that that means to take his place. But I think in the short term, this year, it's can he do it when Alvin's not there? And that remains to be seen. I'm not a scout. I'm not at minicamp. I'm not at practice. I've never worked Kendre Miller out. I know he wasn't asked to do it at TCU. That certainly doesn't mean he can't. But he hasn't proven that. And then you look at Jamal Williams, who they brought in from Detroit. And when I say Jamal Williams, you immediately say, led the NFL in rushing touchdowns. How about the passing game? And in his 2 years in Detroit, he hasn't been a big weapon in the passing game. 26 catches 2 years ago. And last year, when he leads the NFL in rushing touchdowns with 17, he made 12 catches. So that's not something he's done recently. However, you go back to his earlier years in Green Bay when he had a really, really good quarterback in Aaron Rodgers, and there was a little bit more. 25 catches, 27 catches, 39 catches, a career high in 2019. And he had 5 touchdown catches that year. So he just hasn't been asked to do it. This now presents itself as kind of the unknown. We think Kendre Miller can come out of the backfield and make plays. We think Jamal Williams can come out of the backfield and get plays and make plays. We know Alvin Kamara is, but we think he's going to miss some time. So Kamara's ability is undeniable. The question is he going to be out there? And then if he's not, can these guys pick up the slack? I tend to think they can. I think it's likely that Kendre Miller handles more of that workload than Jamal Williams. I think Jamal Williams is being brought in here to play the Mark Ingram feature back role, not last year's Mark Ingram. That guy's washed. The prime Mark Ingram who leads the Saints in rushing all time. That's the guy that Jamal Williams is being brought in to be. They're not trying to bring him in here, pushing his upper 20s to become a different player. I think they drafted a player that's 21 in Kendre Miller to evolve his game to become that third down option, that check down option, that Alvin Kamara-esque option when the time calls. Maybe Kamara misses 3 games. Maybe it's 6. Maybe it's 10. I don't know. When he's out there, we don't have to worry. But when he's not, can Kendre Miller be that guy? I think very likely. I don't think the Saints take this pick on Kendre Miller if they don't think he's a weapon out of the backfield. I think that was very much in their line of thinking in terms of restocking the shelves at running back, which was an absolute must in this offseason. Ingram moves along. You look at some of the guys you trotted out there late in the season. We got to find younger, more capable players. And they obviously targeted Jamal Williams, who was going to be a workhorse for him. And they had to find a guy in the draft at some point that could help them in the Kamara role. Whether that's when Kamara's out this year or whether that's when Kamara moves on from the New Orleans Saints. And they identified Kendre Miller as that guy. If they did not think he could go out there and make 55 catches, 60 catches in a year, I don't think they draft him. It makes too much sense to put these puzzle pieces together in the backfield and realize what they were thinking. So while Kamara has stolen the show in minicamp and has really wowed David Carr, he's not always going to be there. And I think Kendre Miller is the next man up. I'm comfortable with the Saints running back room. I think they've done a good job of addressing that. I have my reservations. I wouldn't say doubts. I have my reservations about the guys they brought in on the defensive line who have kind of been role players early in their NFL career. I have reservations about the decision to bring Derek Carr in. I have reservations about the interior offensive line at times. I think the running back room's in good shape. Now, you get a suspension for Kamara and somebody tweaks an ankle, you're back in some trouble. But right now, as we sit here in the middle of June, I think the Saints running back room is in good shape with a healthy Kamara who could be out there, with Jamal Williams in a role that we know he can excel in, and Kendre Miller becoming the next versatile back for the New Orleans Saints. And I think that's exactly what they're going to get with him. Appreciate y'all hanging out with us here on a Monday edition. Monday, good grief, that's not even close to the right day. That's 3 days off. On a Thursday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show. We still got a lot to get to here in hour number 2. Joe Healy's going to join us here from Omaha in a couple of minutes, and we'll talk some LSU football recruiting as well as a big defensive back has jumped in the boat. Number 1 player in the state of Tennessee headed to Baton Rouge. That is coming up at 2:30. We will step away, come back with Joe Healy next.
Hunt Palmer on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
One Bath and Closets, onebathandclosets.com is the website. I've been telling you for a couple of weeks now, if you've got a loved one that's aging, that doesn't want to move out of their current home, but they need some help in the bathroom, that's one of the things that David Duvall and One Bath and Closets do. They can put in a walk-in tub that makes things a lot easier on an aging loved one. They can put in some safety precautions in the shower with different sorts of devices to help you hold yourself up and whatnot. If you've got an aging loved one, David Duvall, One Bath and Closets can help them stay in their home longer with some updates to their bathroom. On the closet side, how about the closet of your dreams? Right now, as yours cluttered, there's stuff on the floor, you can't find anything, Most people don't have enough shoe space. David Duvall and his team can come in and help you use that space more efficiently with the closet of your dreams. And the best part, they're not going to charge you to rip out your current closet. They're not going to charge you for the labor to install the new one. They're going to comp that for you because you're a listener to the Hunt Palmer Show. Just going to charge you for the cost of that unit. Go to the website, onebathandclosets.com. Check out the testimonials. Check out the gallery of their great work. And request a free consultation and let David and his team come out and take a look at what they can do for you in your home. Onebathandclosets.com is the website. Onebathandclosets.com.
Our listeners fire off their opinions on the jimsfirearms.net hotline at 499-1045. Keep listening for your next chance to shoot us your thoughts with the jimsfirearms.net hotline on 1045 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Get 3.99% financing at Corvell Toyota in Opelousas on select 2023 models. And we also have a large selection of pre-owned inventory. So come on down to Happy Town. That's Corvell Toyota in Opelousas, Happy Town, USA.
Oh, hey, what's up? It's Big D and Bubba, 100.7 The Tiger Morning Show. We'd love for you to join us every weekday, 4 a.m. till 9 a.m.
Yeah, everything you want in a show. Country music. We got laughs. We got celebrity in-studio guests. We just need you.
Join us every weekday morning, 4 a.m. to 9 a.m., right where it all started.
That's right. Louisiana's country station, 100.7 The Tiger.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary, for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected, supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
When is a taco more than just a taco? When it's Government Taco. Voted best tacos 3 years in a row by 225 Magazine, Government Taco puts the most delicious spin on tacos the capital area has ever seen. With creative combinations like the Magna Carrot, the Filibuster, or the Steak of the Union. Plus perfect tortilla chips paired with the best salsa and queso you've ever had. And happy hour every day from 3 to 6 p.m. and all day on Thursday. Government Taco, 5621 Government Street.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals. But many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
Hey there, little buddy. What's the matter?
What's the matter? My windows, siding, and my door. That's what's the matter.
Relief Windows can fix all that. I got you. Pop, pop. What's up?
Oh my gosh, look!
Curb appeal. That's a good-looking neighborhood. ReliefWindows.com.
Jimmy Ott, Charles Handegrift, Thursday night edition of Live at Lunch. It's dinner time, 6 to 8 p.m. from Ameristar, brought to you by Roosters Men's Grooming Center. It's Live at Lunch, special evening edition, 6 to 8 p.m. Thursday on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
You're listening to Hunt Palmer on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
As you might imagine, the D1 baseball crew all over Omaha, Nebraska, they will have you covered wire to wire from the College World Series. Joe Healy, our guest every Thursday at 2:15, is up there in Omaha because, 3 teams from the SEC are there. Last year, it was basically like 6 teams from the SEC. So, Joe, your workload, not quite what it would have been last year because there's only 3 SEC teams, right?
Yeah, it's kind of nice. This will be a breeze, especially because, as you alluded to, the D1 baseball crew descends upon Omaha like locusts. We just kind of take over the press box. And so we're able to. I'm very fortunate. We kind of get to split up the workload a little bit, do some load management. That's the buzzword people use these days. So that is kind of nice. It lets me really dig in on the SEC teams, and Tennessee and LSU have their practice day press conferences coming up a little bit later. So I always kind of look forward to those, because it's really the last chance to get to talk to those coaches and players when they're still kind of basking in the glow of getting to Omaha before the actual stress and pressure of trying to win in Omaha sets in the next few days.
That ramps up tomorrow. Before we talk College World Series, let's talk your weekend in Baton Rouge at the Super Regional, LSU in Kentucky. What'd you think of the box?
Oh, it was incredible. I mean, look, there are SEC stadiums that have surpassed the box in terms of bells and whistles, in terms of amenities. There's just no argument on that. However, when the box is really rocking, it still leads the way in terms of atmosphere. I just don't think there's any argument about that. And last weekend was a great example. And look, I'm not a good historian of that. I don't have that institutional memory of that. However, I talked to enough people over the weekend who have spent many an evening in the box, and they say, look, there's a chance that the box hasn't been as live as it was last weekend since, in 15, 20 years maybe. So I was incredibly impressed. I was also incredibly impressed by the way LSU handled their business without a whole lot of drama, if you will. I mean, that second game, I was actually even a little surprised that Kentucky fought as well as they did in that second game to make that game close. I guess shout out to Mason Moore, Kentucky's reliever, who really kept them in that game. But that series was always going to rest on LSU. If LSU played well, they were going to handle their business. Really, the only way Kentucky, I felt like, had a lane to get it done is if LSU came out and had a little bit of a reprisal of some of the issues they had earlier in the season, particularly on the mound, but they seem to have now straightened out a little bit as time has gone on. So, they were able to make relatively light work of Kentucky, which is always good when you have that Saturday Super Regional, because it's a quick turnaround as it is. But if you get dragged out to Monday and then you got to be back here in Omaha by Wednesday, that's just really, really tough. So it behooved them to take care of it in two, that's for sure.
I thought Arkansas did a nice job against Paul Skeens in round 2, their second look at him in Hoover. And I thought that Paul Skeens did a great job against Kentucky with their second look. I'm thinking that Tennessee is going to get their second look at Paul Skeens coming up on Saturday. What do you make of that aspect of this matchup?
Yeah, it is an interesting wrinkle. I mean, it can't hurt Kentucky, right? Just because I think hitters gain more information from a repeat of a matchup than pitchers do. Now, maybe Wes Johnson has a different answer to that, or pick your pitching coach would have a different answer to that, but I feel like the getting a second look, I feel like would help the offensive team maybe perhaps so a little bit more than the pitcher in a second matchup. So, but look, the reality is that if Paul is on his best, that's just tough for anybody to handle. And, Tennessee's offense can really slug. They can really score some runs when they're on, but they've been pretty inconsistent. And so it's going to be a little bit determined based on which Tennessee team LSU gets in that matchup.
How much are you buying this group of 6 or 7 guys that LSU has settled on in terms of their pitching staff?
I'm buying it from the standpoint of that these are the guys they need to go into battle with, and the experimentation, which has been done for a while, just needs to kind of stay that way. I don't like it more than Wake Forest's core of top guys. I don't like it more than Tennessee's core of guys. I think kind of the secret with Tennessee is A, they have good bullpen arms, and B, the format. Kevin O'Sullivan made this point in his press conference, and I'd kind of forgotten about this, that if you stay in the winner's bracket, you can kind of play around with your pitching where you start your first 2 guys, and then your third starter, you don't necessarily want him to have not pitched in that long. So your third starter, if you're winning game 2 in that winner's bracket, you can bring him back in relief. And so that's kind of an advantage for Tennessee, because they could use, they could start Drew Beam and bring Dolander out of the bullpen or whatever it is. So when you have depth like that, you're able to flex it a little bit more. But circling back to LSU, I think they've really done well to kind of find the guys they have. I mean, look, it's not the most impressive stuff, but you've got veteran experience with Riley Cooper, who I really like, and he's been in Omaha. I think that's important. That's not nothing when you're looking at a team that mostly has not been in Omaha. And I also, with a guy like Gavin Guidry, like he's just got some of that it factor, right? I was talking to some guys last night who had gotten into Omaha about it, and it's like, look, that guy might throw 90, but he thinks he throws 100, and nobody's going to tell him different. And in situations like this, I think there's a lot of value in that. And you and I have beaten the Thatcher Hurd thing to death, but look, the version of him that LSU has gotten of late, that's an asset in a situation like this. I mean, you'll be amazed as you watch the College World Series, just to note for your listeners, how quickly teams start to scramble on the mound when they get into these tight situations. And so having somebody who's come around the way he has, he'll have a role to play as the week goes on.
Joe Healy, SEC Extra, part of the D1 Baseball package. They're all over it up in Omaha. Great time to get a subscription to D1 Baseball. And and read all about it. Now, let's talk a little Vols here, Joe. The discussion down here has been, is it Dollander or Lindsey in game one? I think most would consider that Lindsey is the favorite there, and I don't know if Vitello will say something today or not. I'm assuming Jay won't because he's just out on that whole thing. But what do you think is in terms of the Vols rotation?
I think for LSU, Lindsey is a better matchup from LSU standpoint. He has excellent stuff, but he doesn't miss bats at the rate that Dollander does. And I am with you. I think if you made me guess, I'm going Lindsey. And the reason I say that is in terms of who they will put on the mound. Because Tony Vitello has been pretty open about the fact that it's not just that Lindsey has good stuff. It's not just that his stats have been good. It's also that he's used words like courage and leadership to describe putting Andrew Lindsey in that Friday spot. And so doing it out of loyalty is not really quite the right way to put it. But I do think there is some aspect of Tony being like, look, this is a guy who, came through for us at a big spot. And when we really, really needed him, this is the biggest stage we've had. Let's not change anything. Let's put him back out there. That being said, though, the ball, I can tell you from watching a little bit of BP, and look, you can't always tell. The ball is jumping, at least at least today it was on a warm day. If I'm in his position, Tony's position, I'm putting someone on the mound who could miss bats at a high level. And, Dollander's gotten hit a little bit this year, but that's the answer with him versus Lindsey, who you're going to have a lot more balls put in play, and I think that's dangerous given the atmosphere.
This is just my feeling, and I'll get your thoughts. The last two College World Series both have had 28 home runs. I think we're pushing 40, if not breaking 40 this year. What do you think?
Yeah, 100%. 100%. I got asked on radio yesterday if, there's kind of this old trope about Omaha where it's like you can't win Omaha by hitting home runs. Well, Ole Miss kind of did that last year. And I just think to think that way is to not really have a modern understanding of kind of the way college baseball is played right now. I think that's just the game, for better or worse. I'm not making a value judgment on it. It just is the way it is. I would flip it on its head and say, if you're not capable of running the ball out of the ballpark at any given time, even in a stadium as big as this one, you're going to be at a significant disadvantage in 2023 college baseball.
There weren't a lot of dynamic closers in the SEC this year. Neely did a great job at Florida, but Burns has kind of evolved into that over the last month. At what point do you think Tony Vitello, in terms of in the game, 5th inning, 6th inning, 7th inning, 8th inning, where do you think he would go to Burns if they've got a lead?
The absolute first minute that the thought comes into his mind.
Yeah.
I don't think there's a spot too early for him because the beauty of it is that he's a momentum pitcher. So it's less about the fact that he can't throw whatever you want to put the number at, 75, 80 pitches. It's that when he was a starter, he was struggling to get in a groove enough to get that deep in the game. But if he comes in and you just tell him to let it rip and he's throwing 102 miles an hour and breaking off those nasty sliders, like suddenly he's got wind in his sails. And then the path feels open for him to throw 75, 80 pitches, go 4, 5, 6 innings, what have you. So there's the kind of this weird thing where it's like he's actually become a guy who can give you effective starters type innings without actually having to use him as a starter. So I suspect they're going to be pretty eager to get him in the game kind of the minute they start to sniff the finish line.
I think that's the fear for me, at least, is that LSU needs to get a lead early in this game and let Skeens go, because you fall behind and you start having to deal with Burns. It's just not going to be a very comfortable deal, even though LSU knocked him all over the place in the box, but he's a different guy at this point than he was then. The big story from Stanford was the pitch count for Quinn Matthews last weekend. Do you still expect to see him Saturday against Wake Forest?
I would think so, and I would take the over on runs allowed by him. I think history's littered with examples of guys who get pushed, whether it's in a regional or in a super, and then when they get to that next round, either the super or Omaha just don't have anything really left in the tank. Actually, for an LSU example, I think of Landon Marceau in the 21 Knoxville Super Regional. Just didn't have anything left in the tank. So, look, he's a really good pitcher, and he's not getting by on velocity, so maybe it won't affect him as much. But I'd bet the over on runs allowed for him. But I still suspect they're going to throw him out there. He's their guy, but Stanford kind of telegraphed where they're, it's not like it was a secret, but we really saw it on display. They telegraphed where they're going to be vulnerable is they can't afford to get in the loser's bracket. If they get in the loser's bracket, they're basically toast. Like, they could win another game, sure, but they're not going to make a deep run that way. They just don't have the depth.
Now, this is just outside the SEC, but allow us to think forward 2 days past it. If LSU were to see Stanford win or lose, you don't have a huge number 2 starter there that you've got to be worried about. If LSU sees Wake win or lose, what would you imagine the Tigers would be looking at from a pitching perspective there?
Yeah, you're probably going to see, someone like a Seth Keener, really, you're going to miss Brett Lauder, which is
right.
good, I guess, but it doesn't really get any easier after that point, whether it's Seth Keener, whether it's
I think Hartle,
Sean Sullivan, Josh Hartle. Thank you. That was the name I was grasping for. Yeah, Josh Hartle. Like, all those guys are excellent. So it's kind of like pick your poison. Now, Hartle's a little bit different in that his stuff is not quite as electric as the other guys. It's still plenty good, but he's kind of more of a pitchability guy with stuff that plays up a little bit. The other guys are like stuff is present, and yes, maybe it even plays up beyond what the radar gun tells you. So Hartle's a little bit of a different look. Now, Hartle is also left-handed, so that adds a little bit of a wrinkle into it too. So I know there's lineup machinations that matter a little bit there with the righty-lefty stuff. So Hartle's a comfortable at bat more so than the other guys. It doesn't make it any easier, but that's the kind of guy that it depends on how you view it. It's a comfortable at bat. Nobody's going to go up there thinking like, hey, I need to get started early to get around on this thing. But also, if he's hitting his spots, it can be really frustrating because you go back to the dugout not totally understanding why you're not hitting him better. But I think that's probably the pick is Hartle, but Keener could also be in that mix. And Sean Sullivan's another guy with starting experience. Talk about guys whose stuff really plays up. But lately they've kind of been using him in a kind of a utility relief role where they kind of use him like Chase Burns. And he's really good in that role. So he's another guy that, look, if they don't use him in game one and LSU ends up with Wake Forest, and he hasn't thrown, that's a guy that I would suspect you will also see pretty early in the game.
Who are your bracket picks and your champ? We'll talk to you next week, I'm sure. But at this point, where are you leaning?
I got Wake and then Florida, and I got Florida winning it all. I mean, I continue to get consistent feedback from SEC coaches that say that was the most talented team we played all year.
Yeah.
And so I'm going to lean on that, and I'm going to keep listening to that and not be a dummy and think that I know more than these SEC coaches. And so I think the format's also great for them. Kevin O'Sullivan talked about that today. They could probably use Kaggs in the bullpen. If they end up in the winner's bracket, they could use him in the bullpen where, his stuff is going to be dynamite in that role. So they have a little bit of an advantage there. So I like the way they shape up, and Wake's kind of the same, just a super well-rounded team. Wake, Florida, and I've got Florida winning it.
My line's been that I like all four teams, less so Stanford, but certainly the other three in LSU's bracket, and I just can't talk myself out of Florida on the other side. It's just hard for me to not see them coming out of it. It happens every year in Omaha. Somebody loses that's not supposed to, but I feel like they're a slam dunk over there almost.
Yeah, I think, they got some favorable matchups over there. Even, their biggest challengers, I think, I like Virginia, but I'm still, look, the ERA is good for Virginia. But I still don't totally understand exactly how Virginia's been so good on the mound this year. It's a lot of pitchability right-handers, and you know what? Kudos if you win like that. But in this type of setting, I just wonder if that's going to be the kind of thing where the clock strikes midnight.
We shall see. Joe, enjoy Omaha. We'll talk next week. Thanks, man.
I appreciate it, Hunt. See you, buddy.
He is Joe Healy, D1 Baseball's SEC Extra Package. Again, they just got great work. And if you want to read all things Omaha, the D1 Baseball staff's got you covered. Joe's been with us all year long. 104.5 ESPN and Rev Business bring you live coverage from Omaha, the 2023 Men's College World Series. Charlie Hannegriff and Jimmy Ott are anchoring our team coverage starting tonight. And then they've got a special edition of Live at Lunch at 11 a.m. Plus, get you set for Tigers and Vols with a special pregame show on Saturday. Our coverage of LSU Fighting Tiger Baseball in the 2023 College World Series powered by Rev Business. LSU football got another commit today. Kind of rolling on the trail. We'll tell you about it next in the Hunt Palmer Show.
This is on Palmer. In times of need, get a full list of phone numbers, websites, and other important emergency information on the Demco Stormwatch page at 1045ESPN.com.
Gulf Coast Bank and Trust is giving our customers the power to bank anywhere, anytime during this challenging event. And we're right there with you. Our mobile banking app is a smart way to manage your money and time. Gulf Coast Bank and Trust, the bank that cares about you.
Hello, Samantha, dear, I hope you're feeling fine. And it won't be long until I'm with you all the time. But until then, I spend my money up right down my last dime. Come on, in Baton Rouge. I'm ready, what you put me on through. Gotta send my love down to
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets, from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology, from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary, for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected, supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
When is a taco more than just a taco? When it's Government Taco. Voted best tacos 3 years in a row by 225 Magazine, Government Taco puts the most delicious spin on tacos the capital area has ever seen. With creative combinations like the Magna Carrot, the Filibuster, or the Steak of the Union. Plus perfect tortilla chips paired with the best salsa and queso you've ever had. And happy hour every day from 3 to 6 p.m. and all day on Thursday. Government Taco, 5621 Government Street.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals, but many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
All right, let's say ah.
Where'd my spotlight go?
Super weird, but we can take care of it.
Get in and get better at Patient Plus.
Charles Hannegriff, our Omaha home for the College World Series is the Ameristar Casino and Hotel in Council Bluffs, Iowa, just minutes away from downtown Omaha. Enjoy the only casino buffet in the area and a full sports book. Eat, watch, and bet at the Ameristar Casino and Hotel.
This is Hunt Palmer on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Pretty salty leaderboard through half a day at the United States Open out at Los Angeles Country Club. Ricky Fowler's threatening history. He is 6 under par on his round, 7 under par, through 15 holes. He is 1 birdie on his last 3 holes away from tying the lowest round ever carded at the U.S. Open. Of course, Johnny Miller shot a 62 at Oakmont to win it 50 years ago. So Ricky Fowler at 7 under is in the lead. Xander Schauffele is 2 shots back at 5 under. Jacob Solomon is 2 under. You don't know who that is, but Bryson DeChambeau is 2 under. Gary Woodland, former U.S. Open champion in the state of California, is 2 under. Scotty Scheffler is 2 under as well. So some big names gravitating toward the top of the U.S. Open leaderboard there in L.A. LSU rolling on the recruiting trail. Brian Kelly's staff pulled in another commitment today. That was Andre Evans. Spell that with an O, O-N-D-R-A. Andre Evans, the number 1 player in the state of Tennessee, according to On3 Sports. He is a 6'1" cornerback. He weighs in at 185 pounds from Nashville. And this is a top 50 player in the country, top 80 player in the country, depending on where you're looking. He's fast rising at this point. He's shown out in some camps. LSU put the full court press on him this past weekend, and they have locked him up. So Evans will be a member of the 2024 class for LSU, which really looks pretty good from a defensive back perspective. You add Andre Evans in there. You consider that you've already gotten a commitment from Jawan Johnson, who is a cornerback from over at Lafayette Christian. Johnson was, of course, committed to Colorado at one point and flipped back to LSU. Zion Ferguson is a four-star cornerback out of Gainesville, Georgia, who you have pulled in. Joel Rogers, a safety, who you got this week from West Feliciana. So you start to look at Wallace Foster, who's a cornerback from Warren Easton. They have loaded up on high school defensive backs, and they need to, because you got into a point 2 years ago where Eli Ricks moved on, and you lost Dwight McLaughlin to Arkansas, and those were supposed to be your top two corners. And so when Brian Kelly came in, you're looking at the cornerback room going, I kind of got nothing. So he went and stocked the shelves with a bunch of transfers. And he went and got Jark Bernard Converse and pulled him in. He went and got Mekhi Garner and pulled him in. And you went and got some guys that can play safety and nickel like Joe Brooks and Joe Fouché and Greg Brooks. And you brought in Major Burns, and you brought in a bunch of guys, but they weren't going to be here very long. You've already had Garner and Jark Bernard Converse move on. They are gone. You've already lost Joe Fouché. So you brought in enough for that team, but then you had to move on immediately. You've got to try to stock the shelves from the high school level. Now, there's no guarantee that all the high schoolers stay. In fact, there's pretty much a guarantee that some of them move on. But it's an easier way to live life if you continue to bring in some high schoolers that you can develop over 3 years and then supplement as you need to, instead of literally just overhauling the entire secondary with juniors and seniors. You're going to have to do that every year if you do it. At least you give yourself a little bit of a buffer. So you're looking at a class right now that's got 4 corners in it. You got a couple of safeties in it. You look at the freshman class that LSU brought in, and you've got some guys in the secondary that you think can really help you. That was kind of headlined by your ad. I'm just totally blanking on the add-in from Texas there. I did not write it down, and I'll scroll to it and we'll figure it out. Javian Toviano, it just wasn't coming to the brain. Every once in a while that happens. But you brought in Javian Toviano, who is a very, very highly thought of player at the cornerback spot. You brought in Kylan Jackson at safety, who is a 4-star and figures to be kind of an enforcer for you back there at safety. Ryan Yates is another super talented player that you brought in from the state of Texas at safety. Jeremiah Hughes in this class at cornerback as well, that's coming in. Ashton Stamps is a really good athlete who can maybe play safety or corner for you. And then you brought in a couple transfers to help you as well, J.K. Johnson from Ohio State and whatnot. So the numbers are starting to look better from LSU's perspective at corner and at safety. And as these guys continue to move on, you've got to try to stock those shelves with some high school players. And they think that Andre Evans is going to be that guy. I think for me, LSU for like a 10-year span basically could cast the net wherever they wanted to and get as good a cornerback as there was in the country. Sometimes it's Derek Stingley right down the road. Sometimes it's Tre'Davious White inside the state. Sometimes it's one of the best players in the country who's not from in the state. Kevin Tolliver was the number 1 corner in the country. He was from down in Florida. Eli Ricks, the number 1 corner in the country. He was in California. You could basically go wherever you wanted and get the top defensive back. And I think while some stuff on the internet is overblown and I think the DBU thing was very real. And with Corey Raymond calling the shots and the DBU moniker and the guys that you were winning Jim Thorpe awards with and putting in the NFL that were having great success, it basically, I don't want to say it sold itself, because that's selling Corey Raymond and the staffs that put those classes together short, but you had a significant advantage. And you wonder, as you change head coaches for the second time in 4 years, and you bring in a new defensive back coach for the first time in almost a decade, is that going to translate? And I don't think that at this point you would suggest that pulling a 4-star from the state of Tennessee in Andre Evans that is top 80 player, not a top 8 player in the country, means, we're back, DBU, just keep loading the shelves. But it is a national recruit that had interest in coming to LSU from out of state. And by the way, there's a school in his state that's got some pretty good momentum after last year in the University of Tennessee. And so for Andre Evans to shun the school a couple hours up the road and to come in is, I think, a really, really good thing. So I'm not ready to say that LSU is at the level of defensive back recruiting that they were at 5-7 years ago, where they were basically getting the number one DB in the country from wherever they wanted. But it is nice to see them kind of cast a wider net, go out and get a fast-rising, quality-sized, good athletic cornerback to come to LSU, who, may not have looked this way with all the staff changes that have gone on. I think it's a very, very positive thing for LSU to go get Andre Evans. And I think this is one of those guys, and look, trust me. Actually, don't trust me. What I'm saying is trust the people who do it for a living. Trust the folks who cover recruiting, who do talent evaluation, who track offers and visits and all the recruits all year long. They are saying that Andre Evans is going to be a fast riser. He may be a 3-star right now on 247. He may be a 3-star right now on ESPN, but I think eventually he catches up on 3 with the other sites and becomes a highly rated 4-star prospect and maybe a top 50 player in the country when the dust settles. There's a lot of buzz around Andre Evans at this point, and because he's showing out at these camps, and that's continued success for LSU on the recruiting trail. As they had a big last couple of weeks in camp, and they've paid off with some big time commitments over the last week. You add Andre Evans to the mix today. Look, JoJo Stone is coming in and solidifying his commitment on Twitter today, and so you're moving in the right direction here as far as recruiting goes, and that's always a very, very good thing. So there's your LSU football nugget for today. Got one segment to go. We'll play some Take It or Leave It, and we'll turn the keys over to Matt Moscone. It's the Hunt Palmer Show.
Hunt Palmer on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
LWCC is Louisiana Loyal, elevating and celebrating champions of Louisiana like Corey Barr. Corey is the owner and founder of Parish Restaurant, Standard Coffee Company, and Heritage Catering up in Monroe, Louisiana. That's where he was born and raised. As a chef, Corey focuses on honest dishes with a strong sense of place, for which he has earned national recognition. He was on the Food Network Star. He was a finalist there in 2017. He beat Bobby Flay. Food and Wine named him People's Best New Chef. So he's kind of got some name brand recognition nationally, but Corey really, really loves his roots here in Louisiana and does everything he can to better his home state. That makes him a champion of Louisiana. If you know a champion of Louisiana like Corey Barr, nominate him. Nominate him at lwcc.com/champions, and we will tell their story right here on the Hunt Palmer Show. Corey Barr is a champion of Louisiana. LWCC is Louisiana Loyal.
Our listeners fire off their opinions on the jimsfirearms.net hotline at 499-1045. Keep listening for your next chance to shoot us your thoughts with the jimsfirearms.net hotline on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
This summer, retirement is a state of mind. Whether it's a mid-morning activity or an early bird special, grab a Coors Light and chill like you're retired. Are you with me?
Follow us on Twitter at 1045ESPN to cast your vote in the Citizens Bank and Trust Poll of the Day. Vote daily inside Off the Bench, live at lunch, Hunt Palmer. And after further review, Citizens Bank and Trust brings you the Poll of the Day via Twitter at 1045ESPN.
When is a taco more than just a taco? When it's Government Taco. Voted best tacos 3 years in a row by 225 Magazine, Government Taco puts the most delicious spin on tacos the capital area has ever seen. With creative combinations like the Magna Carrot, the Filibuster, or the Steak of the Union. Plus perfect tortilla chips paired with the best salsa and queso you've ever had. And happy hour every day from 3 to 6 p.m. and all day on Thursday. Government Taco, 5621 Government Street.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary, for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected, supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals. But many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
Hey there, little buddy. What's the matter?
What's the matter? My windows, siding, and my door. That's what's the matter.
Relief Windows can fix all of that. I got you. Pop, pop. What's up?
Oh my gosh, look!
Charles Hannegriff, our Omaha home for the College World Series is the Ameristar Casino and Hotel in Council Bluffs, Iowa, just minutes away from downtown Omaha. Enjoy the only casino buffet in the area and a full sports book. Eat, watch, and bet at the Ameristar Casino and Hotel.
You're listening to Hunt Palmer on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
A little programming note here on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. No live at lunch, which would be, I guess, live at dinner tonight from 6 to 8 from Omaha. Charlie and Jimmy have had a few hiccups in the travel game. Everybody's doing great, but they're not going to get there in time. So they will be on tomorrow, 11 to 1, absolutely, and they will be on pregame on Saturday, 3 hours before LSU and Tennessee get it rolling. So they'll start on Saturday at 3 o'clock and go until 5:30 our time, but will not be on the air tonight because travel just didn't quite work out. I guess that's why you go a day early and try to figure it out. And so they'll be in good shape tomorrow to host our coverage from Omaha, Nebraska. And shout out to Rev Business for allowing us to have some presence up there in Omaha. Just fired up for tomorrow's show in a big way. We will preview LSU and Tennessee. I think we'll potentially have some starting pitchers at that point. I think that at least Tony Vitello may announce one today. And we'll have baseball on while we're on the air here. I'll have golf on one TV, and I'll have baseball on the other TV as TCU and Oral Roberts get it rolling. So we'll get you some updates and certainly get you ready for LSU and Tennessee from Charles Schwab Field up in Omaha. But before we get to tomorrow's show, let's finish today's with Take It or Leave It.
All right, starting off here, HBO has approached the Detroit Lions about Hard Knocks returning this year. Take it or leave it.
I would take it, I guess.
I'll take it.
I just like the show. I don't know that any season is significantly better than others. I liked the Jets. I thought that was pretty good. I don't know if the Jeff Fisher Rams one was super awesome, but it's just that time of year. It's August. We're kind of searching for some sports, and you hear the music for Hard Knocks, and the sprinklers come on, and guys are, push. I just like the nostalgia of August, and that's what it feels like. The Lions were a fine story, and I think it helped them in terms of PR last year that everybody kind of felt like they were pulling for a team that they spent August with. The Saints are a team that could be forced to do it. They've already voiced that they don't want to have that happen. Because they didn't make the playoffs, and they don't have a coaching change anymore, and they kind of meet the parameters now of a team that could be forced into it, but they don't want to. The Lions might do it. They could use all the pub they can get, so I'd be in for it. That'd be just fine.
The Denver Nuggets are more likely to repeat than the Kansas City Chiefs. Take it or leave it.
Ooh. I had to guess Chiefs or Nuggets. Man. It's just hard to bet against the Chiefs with Mahomes. They do have a brutal conference. There's no doubt about that. And the Nuggets kind of do too. I would take the Nuggets. I think in that sport with those two guys, with Jokic and Murray, I like their chances. I feel like the Warriors are about to get busted up a little bit. I don't think the Lakers have much in the tank, and CP3 just left Phoenix. So I feel a little bit better about what's going on in Denver. The Chiefs very well might get it back. I hope they don't, because I want my Bengals to show up and get that done. But I will take that. I think the Nuggets are more likely to repeat than the Kansas City Chiefs.
All right, last one here. LA Country Club is too easy. Take it or leave it.
Because Ricky's trying to fire 62. By the way, I don't think he's going to fire 62 because I'm watching him traipse through a barranca at this point. And he looks kind of blocked out. So Ricky may be giving one back to the field here. And now as you look up, and I think that's Scotty, who's down there in a canyon in front of a green on a different shot. So it'll bite back. Here's the deal. They can make that golf course as hard as they want it. They're going to get no rain this week down there in L.A. They can put the pins in brutal spots. They can roll the greens and not water them. They can speed up the fairways a little bit. They've got control of that thing. So if everybody's 6-5 under after today and they want to tuck some pins and move some tees back and make it carnage, they can do that if they want. They've got the ability to do that. So I think it's okay if some guys go out there and shoot 4 or 5 under today. It's likely they'll give some back over time. And if those guys are dialed in, sometimes they're going to shoot a low score here and there. But I don't think they're going to shoot 4 of them. So I don't think it's too easy. I think it'll be just fine. I've seen some cool shots, and I'm excited to get back home and watch late night. It's going to be on late. They're going to be playing until like 9 o'clock our time here. So that'll be some fun watching. Great leaderboard right now with Ricky Fowler at the top, Xander Schauffele right there, Scotty Scheffler right there, Bryson DeChambeau right there, hometown boy Max Homa right there. So star-studded at this point. They still got a lot of stars to go off in the afternoon and see how they can handle LACC. So I don't think it's too easy. I think it's going to be just fine. That'll do it here for a Thursday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show. Open things up with the new SEC football schedule and my thoughts on it from a conference perspective as well as from an LSU perspective. That was at 1 o'clock. Ryan Schimpf, member of the 2009 National Championship team, was with us at 1:15 talking about his memories from Omaha and this team and whether or not he likes their chances. I went through bracket 1, the other side from LSU, at 1:30 and kind of scouted those teams. They'll get underway tomorrow. And then Michael Braswell, newest member of LSU's baseball program. He was in middle infield for South Carolina the last couple of years. He is coming over to LSU for next year. Gave you my thoughts on that at the end of hour number 1. Alvin Kamara and the Saints running back core. What is it looking like in minicamp? Talked about that at 2 o'clock. Joe Healy was fantastic as usual from Omaha, Nebraska. He and the D1 baseball team are all over the place up there. So enjoyed our conversation with Joe at 2:15. And LSU lands another big commitment in football on Andre Evans. I went through that at 2:30. If you missed any of that, you can catch it on demand, 1045ESPN.com's on demand tab, Apple Podcast, Spotify, Google, or on YouTube. I want to invite you to subscribe to our YouTube channels. We got Hunt on LSU and Hunt on Saints. If you subscribe to those, you're going to get our football content right to your fingertips when we publish it. Beck does an awesome job of cutting up those segments and posting them there. So you're getting very digestible 10, 12-minute segments on football. Hunt on LSU, Hunt on Saints. Search those on YouTube and subscribe if you would. Tomorrow's show is going to be brought to you by Cork's Cajun Fried Fish and Shrimp. Very excited to get into LSU and Tennessee, as well as the other matchup, Wake Forest and the Stanford Cardinal. We'll have probably some pitching matchups to talk about tomorrow. The teams are going to hit the microphones today. Maybe Jay doesn't announce Paul Skeen starting on Saturday. Maybe he's just going to hold that until 90 minutes to first pitch. It feels like something he could say, and at that point, Vitello would likely tell us who he's going to pitch in the game on Saturday. Curious to see what Stanford does with Quinn Matthews as well. So I'm going to be locked into these press conferences and see what we get over the next few hours. Matt may let you in on a secret there, or let you in on something that's been made public. He's going to drive you home. Coming up next on After Further Review. Reminder, no live at lunch tonight, 6 to 8 as scheduled. Some travel issues, but they will be with you tomorrow from 11 to 1. I'm out of here. See you tomorrow, same time, same place, 1 to 3 on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected. Supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team. And backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
The importance of doing this fortified program and offering it to people down here is, number one, the only real chance you're going to get to do this is when you put on a new roof or build new. And through companies like HUDCO, who's kind of leading the way in this thing, it's going to offer the customers a huge advantage in the insurance market and the price of their insurance.
You know, we're not looking to make a fortune off fortifying. We're trying to give you a better product than our competitor at the moment. I'm trying to do something that he can. I'm trying to give you something better. So a lot of these insurance jobs, you're getting a re-roof, you're only paying your deductible. Let's sit down and talk about the fortified and let's see what it does to your insurance premium. You're getting a steal.
Yeah.
You're getting a brand new roof and a fortified certificate for your deductible, essentially. I think we're rocking and rolling.